Thanks so much for watching our first official episode.
Oh gosh, it's here!
So today we're going to talk about blended families.
Ooh.
So this is like a huge topic for both of us.
Yes.
Okay, so you...
Let me just say it.
Yeah.
Just
run through it.
I have one real sister, 2 stepsisters, 2 half-sisters, and 1 half-brother.
How many is that total? Like I grew up with you and I'm still like,
That's 7 of us. There are 7 of us.
Yeah. And I grew up in like traditional family, just me, the folks, and my sister. But now I am...
Came to party at my house on the weekends.
I did come to party at your house, yeah. Now I'm in a blended family. Mm-hmm. So there's my husband and I have a stepson who's 11 and then a son who's 2.5. So we are now a blended family.
Yeah.
And it's been like this amazing journey for me personally that I was totally unprepared for.
Oh yeah, you've been calling me a lot.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode is because I've gotten 2 women who have messaged me, like private messaged me, that are just like acquaintances.
Sure.
Who are like, I see your feed on Facebook and Instagram, whatever, like my personal one. And they're like, you are in a blended family. Like, how are you guys doing this and this and this? Like, how does this go for you? And like, I don't feel, please. And they're like, I don't feel like I have anybody else I can go to because it seems like taboo or hush or something. And the one woman was like, I'm struggling and I need to talk to somebody about it. Yeah. And I was like, let me just say right away. I was like, I'm at work, let's talk later, but let me just say I struggled. Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh my God, I'm tearing up just hearing you say that you struggled. And I'm like, wow. Like that's the expectation. Like you struggle just to be a parent, period. Or be in a relationship, period. And to feel like when you're in a blended family that you can't say, hey, this is challenging sometimes and here are the challenges and let's talk about them. And I was like, we need to like make this a public discussion.
I do feel like there's a negative stigma when you hear the word blended family or step family.
Yes.
I did not personally have that experience, so I would like to delve into that and see what my family might have done differently.
Yeah.
Because my stepsisters are my best friends. I just got back from New Orleans with my stepsister, and
that's right.
Saying stepsister right now feels weird to me. That's my sister.
Yeah.
These are my siblings. I grew up in such a warm, loving family.
So I'm curious, like being at sort of the beginning of the blended family journey and you having spent your life in a blended family, did you ever feel like things would be better if you were in a traditional family? Did it ever feel, do you feel like you've had negative consequences?
No, I think, emotionally and things like that, I think being in a blended family was amazing. Having all of those personalities together was so much fun. I mean, maybe monetarily. We got told, no, we're not flying to Disney World. We're taking a road trip to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But that's true.
That was us too.
That's true in any big family, not blended or not.
True.
I really enjoyed having all of these different, and it was fun. I got to go on adventures because, my stepsister Chloe lived in Evanston and I would take the train and we would go, to like the different fairs in Evanston, and it was kind of like this cool experience to go visit her. So no, I had fun with it. I always thought it was fun. I will say that there was a little bit of, a difference between, but this is also the older and the younger siblings. So no, I never really had...
You guys all seemed so, your house was like my second home.
Yeah.
And it never felt, and even from me coming from my house with parents who were together, it didn't feel bad or unhappy.
No, that's definitely
unusual. It was just like Meaghan's house.
Yeah,
and
that's a testament to my mom because we not only had the his, mine, and ours situation with the kids, we also had half the neighborhood kids coming over.
So true.
And my mom being like, these are all my children. She would call them her lost children because she'd be like, where else would they be?
Some of my first boyfriends were the lost children.
We're the lost boys.
Yes.
Oh, Nance.
That's so true. Yeah. I know your mom was like my second mom.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a huge testament to my mom. And I think that, she just has a big heart.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and I mean, with blended families, with adopting children or anything like that, you just have to be able to accept different personalities. Being a parent in general.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like a lot of this just goes back to, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You're just being a good parent. You're just being a good human being. Have to get to know these kids on an individual.
Yeah.
I mean, really, on an individual basis, and you just have to learn what works for them, and then work with your significant other to make that happen. I mean, that's the trick.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's what I've learned, like having a stepson first and then having a son. I have to say, I have to give her a lot of credit to my husband because when I came into their lives, he didn't treat me like an idiot. And I could totally, like, if somebody came into my life, like, full time with me and my kid, and that person didn't have a kid, and they were like, you should do this, I would be like, you should. Yeah. And he, like, never did that. He would listen to my opinion and, make me feel like a part of the conversation or whatever. So I have to give him a lot of credit for that. But now, like, looking back, I was just like, there were some nights where I was like, I'm having such a hard time with, like, you and I don't have enough time together or whatever. And he was, like, so gentle and not just saying, being like, that's parenthood. Like, but then when I had a chance, I was just like, oh okay.
Hi, I'm Christy Gargano. I am a social worker and I work as a therapist at Evergreen Counseling in Wheaton, Illinois. I really enjoy what I get to do and I feel very fulfilled by working with people with a myriad of different things that they're experiencing, one of them being impactful or difficult life transitions, such as becoming or moving into a blended family, dealing with divorce, whether it's the parents, individual parent, or the children affected by divorce, and then also moving into a growing larger family.
Hi, my name is Andrea Harvey. I am the owner of Harvey Law Office, which is a law firm located in Chicago, Illinois. I focus my area of practice in the area of family law, so that includes custody, divorce matters, and parentage matters. So I help people who are going through a divorce divide the assets, the debts, and deal with issues with respect to children. And I also help people who've never been married before deal with the parenting issues with respect to the children in terms of custody as well as visitation.
Do a little fun thing to introduce our guests for every show. Everybody's going to bring a mug that sort of defines them or how they're feeling today, or just something that they want to speak on for a minute so you can get to know them a little bit. So, why don't you go first?
Oh, wow. I was hoping they were the other way. Okay, so my mug, full disclosure, first of all, I picked it because it matched my outfit. And that's just the truth. So I have this mug, on it says SOAR, and then on the other side, it has a Bible verse. This was a gift. This mug was a gift. But what I like about it the most is the SOAR part of it. So, on occasion, when I do drink tea, this is one of my favorite ones. So I don't know if it necessarily describes me as a person, but I do think it's kind of representative of, who I am and trying to always be better and rise above issues and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's like the deep version of the fact
and you
that
like to coordinate your outfits.
Right. I was like, let me just go deep with it. You know what I mean? But honestly, it was like, on my way out the house, I was like, I gotta get a mug. It matches. Boom, it works. So, yeah. That's the truth.
I love it. Well, mine is very serious as well. So this is my Jeff Goldblum mug. And let me just speak on this for a minute because I know that there is a current Jeff Goldblum trend. Fad. Okay.
Really?
I am like the OG. Okay. I'm not even, she can check me. We've known each other since we were 11
We had
years old.
notebooks in high school that we would write notes back and forth. There was no texting, okay? And every other page would be like, Jeff Goldblum. I love Jeff Goldblum. Andrea and Jeff Goldblum forever.
Anyway, so if you know me at all, you know that I love Jeff Goldblum, and don't worry about my husband. He has benefited for my love of gray-haired older men. So, all right. Okay.
Let's follow that up with my unicorn.
Right. Love it.
Okay, so if you guys know me, which most of you don't, this is the most color I wear. I am a dark black soul. But I love unicorns so much. And my brother-in-law bought me this ridiculously obnoxious unicorn for Christmas. And
I love it. It's cute though.
Yeah.
thank you.
I like it.
Honestly, I've only used it for wine until today. There's water in here.
Yeah.
Trust me. But I love
It's your little
unicorns.
twinkle on the inside.
Yes, this is my little twinkle on the inside.
I love that.
I love it.
On to you, Christy.
All right. Well, I kind of struggled to pick out my mug. Realistically, I have a lot of boring mugs at home. This one is one of my favorites because of the size. It holds a lot of coffee. I like larger mugs. I don't like to come up for refills when I am up in the morning. I want to sit in the same spot on my couch and not leave. My husband can attest to that. I'm usually like, hey, honey, can you just fill me up a little bit? Anyway, what I really like about this cup is that it just has this little word comfort. I mean, like, what's more comforting than a cup of coffee in the morning? So realistically, it's very simple, but it's very me. I love it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk about the definition of a blended family.
Definition of a blend. Okay.
Does anyone want to take that one? Or do we want to take that one?
I like that you're using that word.
Blended family?
Yeah.
As opposed to...
Well, I think, there used to be this idea of like the step family.
Step family.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of blended because it is people coming together.
Yes. So a blended family would be two families that already had family members, children, come together. One side could have a child, one not. But now there are biological parents, non-biological parents, which
Stepbrothers,
half-brothers,
sisters, half whatever.
full siblings. I mean,
Yeah.
but there are so many different types of blended families nowadays. You have, you have biological children, and then you have foster children and adopted children.
Right.
Blended. We're all blended. We're all blended in this world anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really interesting because just preparing for this, going over some of these statistics. So this is just like real quick, the stats on blended families. 1,300 new step families form every day. And this is just in the United States. Over 50% of U.S. families are remarried or recoupled. So it's like 50% are in basically blended families. 75% of people who divorce remarry. Now we're going to get into some of the negative stuff. So this is the thing. So when I first got into a relationship with my husband, I did like a ton of research because I wasn't a parent. I had no idea. I just had no idea like how to like be a part of a child's life, or like how, I wasn't raised in a blended family, so I just had no idea how this is supposed to go, like what is my role. So I was just like reading, and wow, so negative.
Yeah.
Super scary.
It's like, these are statistics, but I mean, you have to be very careful about statistics because not everybody is a statistic. And personally, it gave me a lot of anxiety. And that's sort of why I want to put this out there too, is because for all those people that are out there Googling, like I did, like trying to educate themselves on being in a blended family, like you're going to freak out. If you have any mental anxiety, you're going to freak out. So what I want to talk about, there's a lot of statistics that say that basically the kids don't do so great. The second marriages fail. Some 66% of the remarried break up even when there are children involved. And just on a personal level, I have to say when I'm meeting a new person, and I'm like, yeah, I have a stepson and a biological son, because I never just, I'll say I have 2 kids, but I don't want to like disrespect his mom and say, this is my son. You know, it's my stepson, and I say it that way in order to respect his biological mom. But I always feel like when I say that, there's like a little bit of, and maybe this is me projecting, but like, oh, you failed.
Really?
Yes. Oh, you failed because I mean, I am divorced. My first marriage, I had no children. But obviously, if we're a blended family, there's some bit of marriage failure.
So you're taking on the guilt from your last marriage not working out?
I think and maybe this is because we were raised like in the church too. Although, I mean, you were raised in a blended family in the church. So I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just projecting.
There might be some projecting, but some of that may be real projection. Like I think there are some people that have thoughts and feelings about marriage. Yeah. I think what happens a lot, I would say, is there's that projection of failure. Because whenever, and I've had interviews actually with therapists and things like that about just the mental aspect of divorce. And the reality is nobody gets married to get divorced. Nobody, like, let's just put that out there. So there's just this natural, I tried to do something and it didn't work. So by definition, it's a failure. So then you have that. So then you have children potentially involved, right? And so you're going through your stuff, your relationship stuff, and inevitably it's affecting the children versus, first of all, they're living in that environment. So say there's been arguments, there's been tension, there has been some kind of disagreements, and the children are living through that. Some parents, and I hope both parents, are trying to keep that in mind. But they're like, man, I do not want to screw up these kids, right? So in their effort to like not mess up the kids, sometimes they have a tendency to overcompensate and get extremely protective, right? So then it becomes like, my baby, my kid, my decisions, my way is the only way because I'm making the best decisions. And meanwhile, you're having to realistically share this child with somebody that you cannot share a life with anymore. So you're literally, you don't want to agree on anything with that person. Yet, because of this child or children, you have to talk to them. It's literally like the worst situation ever because you want nothing else to do with this person. This person is a reminder of all of your worst decisions. Right?
Who are you telling?
Somebody is saying you have to now make joint decisions with this person for this child or these children. So it is this constant struggle of decision making, but also maturity. It calls for a greater level of maturity, and a lot of times people don't want to be mature.
And then to take that a step further, you have all of these feelings and things going on, and then when you're in a blended family, you might have someone else going through the same thing, and you have these 2 children or 2 groups of children that have been through all of this that now have to find their own new normal. I heard you use this term on your YouTube channel.
I've heard, so what I heard was it takes 7 years for the blended family to find a new normal.
That actually makes sense. I don't know about 7 years, but what I found is it takes quite a bit of time for the adjustment period. And so what I found is like, okay, so divorce is traumatizing. It can be traumatizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's really significant is how it impacts the kids. And so they feel responsible a lot of the times because why didn't I save the marriage?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me that my parents split? And then you have just maybe some secrecy going on where the kids aren't in the know of what's happening, and so they feel left out that way. And then on the other side, then parents tend to overshare. And so I do have clients that are really struggling with parental divorce who, you know, they're trying to manage a lot of stuff. They're trying to manage their feelings, and their parents are kind of like, well, let me overshare so that you feel comforted. And so it's like, anything we do, we need to find balance. And so when I come back to the statistics, you're talking about how it's being so negative. Well, there's a problem. So we're finding that going back then to the resources, if we had more resources available for these ones, therapy can be a resource, you know. I worked in an IOP for a year, and an IOP is an intensive outpatient treatment facility. I worked with adolescents and their families. And so we find them at the bottom. They're really struggling, the teens are. The parents are just kind of like, we don't know what to do. There's a lot of concerns for the teens, but a big part was parental discord. Even in marriages where they're not blended, you have parents that aren't on the same page. So that to me is the biggest problem. Yes. When parents aren't on the same page, they're in different homes, maybe the parents are using their kid as leverage. That can be really hard, and that's really straining on the child. So, and for different reasons, right? Parents don't want to get along, they don't get along, and that's why they separated. There's all these things happening, but if we find balance, if we find support, and I think a big thing for me that I saw being really successful is supporting the parents to be on the same page.
What I find is there's people who are frustrated, and rightfully so, but what they don't understand, you said the statistics said 7 years. What I'm saying is from 0 to 7, you're learning the entire time.
Yes.
And what happens is a situation happens, people are like, oh, this doesn't work, cut it off at the head, you know? But they don't understand that everybody is learning. The adults are learning, the children are learning, everybody is learning, and everybody isn't a willing participant in learning. Some people don't want to participate. So they are not willing to learn. So you literally have to force them, which is, you know, a lot of times where I come in, you have to force them to comply. And that can be frustrating because they're like, who are you, Mr. or Mrs. Judge, to tell me what to do with my children? And I've heard a judge say, I don't want to do it, but you're not doing it. So I have to get involved. You know, and I've had a lot of people, depending on what side I'm on, you know, people hate me, and I don't have a dog in the fight, but they see me as that thing between them and whatever it is that they want to do. And so it's like that learning, and I do say that a lot on my podcast and presentations, it's the new normal. Every time you're creating a new normal, and that's so important for children because children, they look for stability. They look for stability.
They need stability. That goes back to the therapy, coping mechanisms for all of this. You are not always, out of 4 parents in a blended family, you are not going to have 4 perfect parents. You're probably not going to have 4 parents that try to learn, that try to adjust to this new that try to adjust to this new normal. So you need to find some sort of coping mechanisms to try to find that balance, to try to balance everything out.
I do think that is the key, and that's where people do need to be educated, because for me coming in, I mean, the first couple of years, obviously as somebody who wasn't a parent, I didn't know how hard it was to have a kid. Period.
Sure.
And so when we moved in together and we became a blended family, it was like I had to learn how to parent, and then my stepson had to learn how to accept me as a parent. And I have to say I've been very, very lucky because he has never been mean to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Never.
That's awesome.
And I have to, credit his parents for that, that he's just, a wonderful kid. But still, he was a kid and I didn't know. And I've said to him, this was last year, we were having a moment. And I was like, look, I don't always know what I'm doing. And he was like, oh. And then came up with, when everyone's hush-hush, that's where things happen.
when we avoid what's going on. That's when we're like, oh, everything will be okay, everything will work out, everything will fix itself. No, there needs to be openness.
Yeah.
Right? But going back to like, how do we be open and not overshare?
Yeah.
And I think it comes to asking questions too. It's like being curious about like the new family dynamics. What works for you guys? What doesn't work? You know, can we all be on the same page? So anyway, I kind of got off topic there, but I love these
and answering the questions that are asked of you. I think that's the key to not oversharing.
Yeah.
You can answer the questions that are asked and not feel always compelled to volunteer things. I've dealt with people who have dealt with some abandonment in their life and say their mom wasn't around or their dad wasn't around. And so I've learned, I've heard from many of them, my mom didn't have to say this is what was going on. I saw or I didn't see what was going on. So you don't have to sometimes say, it was your dad's weekend, but he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't show up.
You don't need to make an announcement about it because that's obvious. It speaks for itself. And you can work it out in therapy, you know, how that makes you feel and all that kind of stuff. But what happens is people feel the need to announce things that don't necessarily need to be announced or asking questions that don't need to be asked. What I was saying was, I think it's retro that, you know, I don't want to assume your age, but say in the 80s-ish, that you even dealt with a blended family because if we look at historically, people of our age, people just were not getting divorced at the same pace that they were historically. A couple reasons why. Number one, during that time, men were making much more than women. Women were not as educated during that time. And so a lot of times, even though the situation may have called for divorce, it didn't happen because the women were unfortunately sometimes stuck in that situation because if there was a divorce, they would absolutely suffer economically. There was an economic suffering. So we had that happen historically. Now, also during that time, the people that were educated were of the old mindset of men, and children traditionally go to the mom. So a lot of times, historically, that is what was happening. So we have patriarchy from all of that time ago, but now we're in a time where women are much more educated. They're much more further along professionally, and a lot of women are making, if not as much as men, sometimes more in a lot of families. So now women are not as, I would say, disadvantaged of getting a divorce. And so what happens is now it's happening more because it's an option. It's an actual real option. But the laws were not all the way caught up to this revolution. And unfortunately, /fortunately, we are catching up to that. And now we're somewhat suffering due to patriarchy, but we're changing those laws. And actually, literally in Illinois, in the past, I would say 4 to 5 years, we've been making some very monumental changes just in the ways that the decisions are made. Just in the ways that child support is calculated, all that kind of stuff. In fact, just the word custody, we don't even use it anymore.
Really?
We don't even use
Everybody
it
asks me, "Oh, are you going for full custody?"
No,
there
we don't
is
even
no
use.
custody.
There is no custody.
There is no custody.
There is
both parents.
There's a stigma attached to that word. People, no more custody. I want to say as of 2017, we kind of got rid of the word, or 2016.
People are still using them.
They are still using it. They are still using it, and that's why it's interesting because in my marketing, I use it because if I use like allocation of parental responsibilities, people are like, what is that? But that's the actual term, and I actually didn't like using custody because people get hung up on that word. And then it's like if you have custody, it makes you more or less of a parent.
Exactly.
And I
you own more of the child or something.
And when we were still using that term, I would have cases that went on months longer just because of that one word. Just because of that one word. And dads, I would see, and I hate to say this, but men would really struggle with it because they're like, that's still my child.
My child.
That's my child. and why does she get to make all of these decisions? So we just got rid of the term altogether. Like literally, we got rid of the term. And so what we deal with now is decision making, and in fact, it's not even like totality decision making. It's literally decision making in major areas.
The most my ex and I have
areas.
ever gotten along was when we went through our family plan.
Wow.
It was amazing.
That's great though.
For that exact reason.
Yeah.
It's just so many big stuff. That's what I tell you. It's just the big stuff.
Yeah.
What school?
Medical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? That
And
does set it up.
medical is not even that. People don't realize medical's not that deep either. Because if you have a healthy child or whatever, we're just talking about they're gonna go to the same doctor and then they go to only major decisions, and most children don't even deal with those type of health issues.
You can pull this into the old stigma of blended families where someone might have more custody of another child and think that they're the ones that get to make the rules, which causes the discrepancy between the two households and causes everybody to have anxiety.
One thing about being in a blended family is like everybody has to step up their maturity game. And I have to say, like at the beginning of ours, and especially I mean not that young, but late 20s, early 30s, like didn't have kids of my own. It's like you don't want to step up your maturity game. You just want to be like, it should be this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. But it makes things so much worse. That's where we've like gotten to the like worry about yourself, worry about your household. Like that has been so much better. And you're totally right. It's like everybody step up the maturity. Like it's vital.
English control. Get your head out of your ass.
I have a question for you though. Did you notice for your son? You say your son.
Yeah.
Your stepson. I mean,
my stepson. Okay.
Did you notice even his behavior, kind of him being a much more relaxed child when you all got along better? Did you notice any of that?
Yes, actually. Yeah, I would say we all went through like the first few years of tension, and he seemed like, just like tense in general, and certainly picked up on our tenseness or whatever. And I have to say in the last like 2 years since we've just kind of like, my husband and I have gone to therapy, and like we've gotten our shit together and like backed off and like decided to just worry about our household or whatever. I have to say my stepson has been like thriving. Thanks so much for watching. Tune into our next episode so we can keep having these great conversations. Cheers. Cheers. It was like Jeff and the unicorn kissed. All right. We're done. In the can.